It's Josh from SoccerReviewsForYou.com, bringing you my review plus on-feet video of the Nike ID Tiempo Legend 6. This is the pair that I ordered. You're going to get a closer look at it in just a second. But before we get into that, I want to cover a couple things regarding the Nike ID customization service. For those that don't know what it is, if you click the first link down below, it's going to take you directly to the Nike ID customization page, where essentially you can customize the color of any given shoe. That link's going to take you to the Tiempo Legend 6 page. Again, you can pick all the colors and essentially make your own custom colorway. Now, because it is a customization service, it does come at a premium as far as price is concerned. A regular general release colorway of the Legend 6 retails for $210 US, whereas if you want a custom colorway going through the Nike ID service, the retail price is $250 US. So it's a $40 premium that you don't necessarily have to pay if you don't want to. You can just go with a regular colorway, but should you want your own custom color, that $40 premium is not overly excessive, in my opinion at least, to have your own choice of colors on any given shoe. So is it worth it? That's kind of something you have to determine for yourself. If you want custom colors, yes. If you don't, it isn't. As far as the actual time it takes from when you place your order to when your shoes arrive, because these things are made to order after all, it will vary from product to product. If you go to the specific product page on Nike ID, there will be an estimated shipping or estimated kind of wait time for that particular product. For me, when I placed my order, and even to this day, the estimated wait time for a pair of Nike ID Legend 6s is about 36 days, and mine arrived in 35. So one day earlier than expected. And based on my experience with Nike ID, they tend to arrive on time or even a little bit before the estimated actual arrival date pretty much every single time. So again, don't go and order something from Nike ID expecting to get them in a couple of days, because generally there is a 3 to 6 week wait time depending on what you're actually ordering. But again, my experience this time around with the Nike ID Legend 6 was pretty seamless. Can't really complain. The customization service works well. And again, if you want to play around with it, it's the first link down below. So with that being said, let's get into a closer look on my particular Nike ID Tiempo Legend 6s. Alright, so here is a look at the box that it comes in. Open it up, and they do include an all black Nike ID string bag. Nothing too fancy there. The back is left completely blank, by the way. Other than that, all you're going to find inside the box, as you guys can see, are the shoes themselves. So we'll get these guys out of the box, and we'll take a closer look at my Nike ID Tiempo Legend 6s. That turned out really, really nice. I'm pretty happy with them. It's a very bright color, very simple colorway. For me, whenever I do anything on Nike ID, I try to make it look like a general release colorway, in that it doesn't look like a mishmash of colors that don't work together. I want it to look like it's somewhat professionally done, if that makes any sense. And I went with a pretty simple color scheme with pretty much just 3 main colors featured on the shoe: Tour Yellow, White, and Photo Blue. And the end result is a shoe that I think actually looks pretty cool. So obviously the theme here is a Brazilian shoe, kind of Ronaldinho inspired. I did put number 10 in the short ID customization, as you guys can see, and the Brazilian flag, just because I thought it went cool with the color scheme. But the main reason why I went with a Brazilian theme in the first place is mainly because I saw Tour Yellow was an option. I really like this particular color. Normally when we see a yellow shoe from Nike, it almost always tends to be that neon yellow Volt color, which is great. I like that color, but regular yellow or Tour Yellow is just something we don't get to see all that often. And I have other Tour Yellow shoes from Nike, most notably the Superleggera 3 right here, also in a Brazilian themed color that I really like the look of, as well as this special edition Nike Premier in the Brazil colorway as well, both featuring that Tour Yellow base, which again, I think looks really, really cool. And I'm fairly certain Nike is not going to release a Tour Yellow colorway of the Legend 6, but I guess only time will tell. So as far as kind of the colorway options that are available, you actually have a pretty good amount of options for the Legend 6, and I thought I'd just kind of run you down all the decision making that I did for this particular colorway. So obviously for the main part of the upper, which is the leather, or all the parts that aren't the heel area that has obviously the different texturing, that is one color choice, and you have the option of going with a regular color, which is what I ended up choosing in Tour Yellow. And there's also metallic colors, which look really, really good, and the actual customizer online doesn't do a good job of showing what they look like in person. More specifically the metallic silver, which Now that I've seen some of the pictures on Instagram of different Legend 6 Nike IDs that people have done, I really, really like the look of the metallic silver, and I might end up doing another one just because I think it looks so cool. Very metallic, very silver looking, whereas online it almost looks like the pure platinum launch colorway of the Legend 6 that's more white than silver, but the final product is a lot more silver. Nonetheless, I went with a solid color. Tour Yellow looks very, very good. Kind of has like a semi-shiny finish to it, I guess is the best way to describe it. But it's a nice consistent color across the entire upper, the leather, the synthetic towards the back, the heel liner, and even the synthetic on the tongue. All of that is pretty much consistently the same yellow, which is very, very good. The next option that you have is actually the heel, which, like I mentioned, the part here with the different synthetic and different texturing to it. That I also went with Tour Yellow. I was kind of debating with going with an accent color, but I ended up not doing it. The problem with this Brazilian theme was that there was no option for a darker green color, kind of like this. The only green you could choose was like a lime green, which I didn't think looked good with the whole Brazilian theme. It just doesn't make sense in my opinion. So I ended up just sticking with yellow on the heel and just going for kind of a more clean all yellow shoe, which I think looks pretty good as a final result. Next, we of course have the actual Nike swoosh, which you can choose a bunch of different colors for. Again, you do have a metallic option. There's like 2 or 3 different colors you can choose from. I went for a solid color in photo blue, which again does look a little bit darker online. Again, kind of more similar to this, but it ended up being a little bit lighter, as you guys can see. Nonetheless, it still looks really good and does kind of fit the Brazilian theme in my opinion. And depending on which color you choose for the Nike swoosh, that will also determine the Nike logo on the top of the tongue as well. So that ended up being photo blue, which is actually slightly darker than the actual swoosh. I was kind of expecting it to be that blue, but like I said, it ended up being a little bit lighter. Next, of course, you have to choose the Swoosh Accent, which is mainly the outline, which also determines the Tiempo branding on the back. That obviously I went with white. You don't have too many options to pick from for that Swoosh Accent, which is a bit of a bummer, but white ended up looking good. Kind of had to decide between white and black, but ultimately I thought white looked a little bit better. And you do get the white Tiempo branding going across the back as well, which I think looks pretty good. That also will change the ACC branding, so that ended up being white as well due to my choice with the Swoosh Accent. The next thing you can choose is, of course, the laces. You can go with regular laces, which is what I went with, just regular Tour Yellow to match the rest of the shoe. Or you can, of course, go for those speckled laces that they have available on Nike ID, where it's a combination of a couple different colors. Really didn't like how that looked on this particular colorway, so I just decided to go with solid yellow. And then, of course, you do have your ID options, which the main ID is obviously going to be right here on the medial side of the heel. You have your short ID, which I went with a number 10. You have a two digits to work with there, and I chose that to be photo blue. Then you have the option of a long ID. I did SR4U for fairly obvious reasons, and I did that in black for whatever reason. Not sure if that was the best choice, but I think it looks cool. I can't really complain about it. Then you have the option of a country flag. You don't have to have the flag. I chose to have it just because I went with the Brazilian theme, so obviously I put the Brazilian flag there. And of course, that's going to be on both shoes. And then the final ID option that you have is the sole plate. You can also change the color of the sole plate. I went with firm ground, and you have, I want to say, 6 or 7 different colors to choose from, which is really, really nice. So you can have contrast with the upper or match the color of the upper. I decided to match it, just going Tour Yellow across the entire thing. And then you can also choose to actually add ID to the bottom of the sole. So you can see instead of one shoe having the Nike swoosh and one shoe having the Tiempo branding, it's left mostly blank, and then you have 2 custom details right here on the inside. So as a short ID on the left shoe, you can choose 2 different digits. So again, I went with the number 10, and it's in photo blue, but because the sole plate base is yellow underneath and then translucent on top, it does give it somewhat of a greenish tinge. It almost looks teal as opposed to blue, but not a big deal, just not the same blue as the rest of the actual, the swoosh itself on the upper, but again, not something you're really gonna notice. It's on the bottom of the shoe, and some of that number does get cut off by the center actual stud, which you don't really see in the Nike ID customizer, so please keep that in mind. And then on the left shoe, you have the option of a longer ID. I think you have 6 digits to work with, and again, I went with SR4U for obvious branding in photo blue as well. And again, something you don't see in the customizer, so keep this in mind, is that whatever kind of lines up with this stud or any of the studs, it ends up getting cut off. So you can see the SR and the U very clearly, but the number 4 is almost non-existent just because it is cut off with the stud. I know what it is, but if somebody didn't know what SR4U was and they looked at this shoe, they'd probably be a little bit confused. So that's probably the only complaint I have with the Nike ID Legend 6 in terms of how it looks in the customizer and how it actually turned out. There's some slight variances in the colors that I wasn't expecting, but that's kind of something you almost can expect with this kind of a service. The customizer is not always going to be 100% accurate, but the end result is a shoe that I think ultimately turned out really, really good. I'm happy with them. Let me know your thoughts on this colorway down below in the comment section. Do you like how these look? Why or why not? And with that being said, let's move on to the tech specs so we can talk about the overall performance as well as the general quality of this Nike ID Legend 6. As far as performance is concerned, I'm a big fan of the Legend 6. In fact, I would say it's my personal favorite shoe at the moment, which people who regularly watch the channel probably already knew. If you guys are interested, there is a playtest video on my channel for the Legend 6. I'll leave an annotation on screen. You can go ahead and check it out. If you're interested in seeing this shoe in action, there's lots of info in that video as well. So again, go ahead and watch that one if you haven't already. But for the sake of this video, we'll go over all the tech specs, kind of talk about the things you should know regarding the performance of this shoe if you were at all interested in a pair. In regards to the quality and just general fit and finish of the Nike ID version of the Legend 6, these are pretty much identical aside from the colorway to a general release off-the-shelf colorway. The actual construction is the same, the materials are the same, the fit is the same, they feel the same. They're exactly the same. Again, the only variance you're going to find from a regular pair to a Nike ID one is the colors, which you get to choose yourself. Kind of a nice little thing if you pay that little bit of a premium for the Nike ID customization service. Now, with the upper, you're getting a kangaroo leather upper for the majority of the actual upper, which is really, really nice. So from this Nike swoosh curve forward, all the way through the forefoot toe box area, even the midfoot, and then cutting off at this point right here, again around the rounded part of the Nike swoosh. That is all made from kangaroo leather, and the quality is very good. Is it overly thick? No. Is it overly thin? No, it's kind of right there in the middle. Has nice softness and flexibility to it, and it really is a premium kangaroo leather upper, what you would expect from a top-end model. Now, what's interesting about this is even though it is kangaroo leather, there's not a lot of stitching on the shoe. You have kind of a chevron shaped stitching pattern running through the midfoot area, as you guys can see, or the forefoot area, I should say. And that's about it. But what you will notice is that you can see these embossed lines under the leather. That's actually an internal support cage that works from the base of the sole into the lacing system on the backside of the leather that pretty much supports the whole thing and adds a lot of structure to this kangaroo leather material without taking away from the softness and flexibility and just general comfort you would expect from this style of shoe. So the end result is a shoe that feels like a normal kangaroo leather shoe when you're juggling and kicking the ball, passing, even just jogging around. But as soon as you start moving a little bit more quickly, making those quick cuts and change of direction, you'll immediately notice that this shoe is a lot more responsive than the average traditional kind of simple kangaroo leather soccer shoe, in that internal support cage does a really, really good job of locking your foot in place and just eliminating excess rollover from the actual upper itself. So really, really good performance feature. But again, it doesn't take away from the natural feel of the shoe, which is extremely unusual and a very, very positive aspect. In my opinion, the best aspect of the Legend 6 over pretty much any other kangaroo leather shoe on the market. You're also going to notice that this shoe technically has a one-piece upper, which is kind of unusual for this style of shoe. So the bottom four lace holes, the actual tongue, while it's made from synthetic, is attached on both sides. So what you're going to notice when you put this shoe on is that it's not overly difficult because the top two lace holes are unattached. So you have a lot of freedom when you pull the laces, or loosen the laces, sorry, to get your foot inside. But once your foot's inside, it really hugs your foot nice and tight even prior to tying the laces. And then when you pull those laces tight, everything is locked in place really nicely. And because of this two lace hole system, the laces tend to kind of stay really tight throughout the entire playing session while using this shoe. So unlike a lot of soft leather shoes where you have to retie them every 20 to 30 minutes in order to keep that nice tight feel, these don't really loosen up. And like I said, they're very, very secure on your foot and also very comfortable. The synthetic tongue is actually pretty much like a memory foam material all the way through. So it matches the thickness of the kangaroo leather very well, actually. So because there is a one-piece construction here, or technically it's one piece, it is two different materials fused together. you have a very seamless feel across the entire shoe. There's no overlapping materials, and the touch is just very consistent across the entire top of the foot, which is really, really nice. And again, kind of unusual for this style of shoe. It also prevents the tongue from sliding around because it can't actually slide around. It's fixed in place. At the back of the shoe, you will find an internal plastic heel counter. It does have a standard cut as you would expect from the Tiempo line. The actual heel liner is pretty much a smooth synthetic leather with a little bit of kind of dimpling at the back. Not something you're going to notice while wearing the shoe, and the overall step-in comfort is quite good. Heel slippage was never an issue either. And as far as the insole is concerned, you will see that it does have the Nike ID branding and will be black in color no matter which colors you pick. So that's a little bit different from a standard pair as far as graphics go, but the actual material is that same synthetic suede, and it's the exact same insole underneath. It's a yellow foam with pour-on inserts in the heel and forefoot toe area that has some decent thickness to it and is a very well cushioned insole for a pair of soccer shoes. Step-in comfort, again, not an issue with these guys whatsoever. And then moving on to the sole plate and stud pattern. The sole plate is standard for what you would expect from the Tiempo line at this point. A thinner TPU plastic material, nice and flexible. And then of course, this is the firm ground variation. Through Nike ID, you can get firm ground, soft ground pro, or AG, depending on what type of playing surface that you're going to be using them on. But for firm natural grass, this stud pattern works extremely well. You have bladed studs in the heel, bladed support studs in the middle, and then conical studs on the extremities here of the forefoot area. Conical studs themselves are fairly long, so you get a really nice aggressive grip from these things. They're rounded in shape, but they dig in quite nicely and provide really, really good grip, but still maintain that maneuverability, that freedom to twist and pivot because of their rounded shape. So like I said, the overall performance on firm natural grass is very, very good from the entire Tiempo line because the sole plate and stud pattern pretty much doesn't change when you go from high end to low end. So really, really good performer if you're looking for a more traditionally styled kangaroo leather soccer shoe, but one that also doesn't necessarily lack modern innovation. The Legend 6 is a great kind of combo of classic and modern feel all in one single shoe. In terms of weight, I thought we'd compare the Nike ID Legend 6 to a regular colorway just to see if there's any significant weight difference between the two. So keep in mind these are both in brand new condition and both the exact same size 9.5 US, so this is a very fair comparison. We'll start off with the regular colorway of the Legend 6. This of course is the launch color, and you can see that they weigh in at 8.7 ounces, the equivalent of 247 grams. So remember those numbers, change the scale back to ounces, pull these off, and we'll throw on the Nike ID version. And you can see that they weigh in at 9.2 ounces, the equivalent of 261 grams. So for whatever reason, these things weigh half an ounce more than the regular colorway in the exact same size, which is kind of unusual. Half an ounce is not really a lot of weight. It's not an amount of weight that I think you're going to notice on feet, especially based on how the shoe feels in general. But it is a significant amount of weight in terms of this shoe having the exact same construction. Based on what I can tell, the materials are the same, the thickness of all the materials are the same, the way they put the shoe together is identical, so I'm not sure where the extra half ounce comes in play. It could just even be my pair, but for whatever reason, I'm just letting you guys know in this video, the scale does not lie. The Nike ID version of the Legend 6, at least the pair that I received, is a little bit heavier than the regular colorway, so I guess take that for what it is. It's not that important of a detail, but it is something worth noting, I suppose. But that's pretty much it as far as how much these things weigh. It's not a heavy shoe. It's not an overly light shoe either. They feel pretty good on your feet. It's a nice solid feel, a very comfortable soft sensation as well. If weight is a really, really important thing for you, the Legend series or the Tiempo line in general is probably not what you're looking for. But if you're looking for a premium kangaroo leather soccer shoe, between 8.6 and 9.2 ounces is a very favorable weight range to be in, at least in my opinion. All right, so here is a look at the Nike ID Legend 6s on feet. On my left foot, I have the stock yellow laces that come with the shoes. And on my right foot, I have a pair of Kelly Green reflective SR4U replacement laces to kind of fill out the Brazilian theme of this particular colorway. If you're interested in a pair of replacement laces for yourself, the website to go to is www.sr4ulaces.com. You'll find a direct link to that website down below in the description of this video. Now, in terms of how these things fit and feel on feet, despite them being Nike ID, they feel just like a regular pair of Nike Tiempo Legend 6s. Same thing goes for the overall shape and sizing. There's no difference there whatsoever. The only difference that I could see was the actual weight of the shoe, which again, I don't really have an explanation for. But like I said, the feel, pretty much the same as a regular pair of Legend 6s. Very comfortable. The quality of the kangaroo leather is good. It's not too thick, it's not too thin, it's kind of right there in the middle. Has a nice, soft, flexible, kind of slightly padded feel on your foot. Plus you get that internal support cage that you don't really notice when the shoe is on your feet and you're just kind of walking around, but as soon as you make those quick cuts and change of direction, you're definitely gonna notice the extra responsiveness that this shoe has versus a more traditional kangaroo leather shoe that obviously wouldn't have the same support cage on the inside. So definite performance benefits to that support cage, but without taking away from the natural kangaroo leather feel that you would expect from this type of shoe. So very, very positive element of the Legend 6 in general, and you actually get it across the entire Tiempo line, which is really, really nice. As far as the overall shape of the shoe is concerned, it's going to be suitable for most people. Obviously, the majority of the upper is kangaroo leather, so it is going to stretch a fair amount if you need it to. The actual support cage doesn't seem to restrict that, so if that's something that you were worried about, don't really be all that worried, because like I said, they will stretch a sufficient amount should you need them to based on the width of your foot. But like I said, they're going to be suitable for most foot types. If you have really, really wide feet, maybe the one-piece construction might be an issue for you, but I haven't heard of too many people having issues thus far. So like I said, these things will be suitable for most foot types. And as far as sizing is concerned, the Tiempo line runs a half size small, just like the previous Tiempo line, including the Legend 5. So instead of wearing my usual size 9 US, I bumped it up to a 9.5, and the fit and the length is absolutely perfect. So if you are looking to order a pair of these for yourself, I would strongly recommend going a half size up in order to achieve the best possible fit. Or if you're coming from the previous Tiempo or the Tiempo Legend 5, sticking with the same size is what I would recommend for the proper fit lengthwise. All right, guys, that is it for my review of the Nike ID Tiempo Legend 6. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, there is a very strong possibility that I probably will order another colorway just because I'm a big fan of the shoe and you actually have a fair amount of options that I really want to kind of play around with within the service. So look out for another Nike ID Legend 6 video in the future. With that being said, if you guys are interested in more info on this shoe, you can check out the review page on my website. That'll be the very first link down below in the description of this video. On that page, you're going to find the high quality images of my pair that'll give you a better idea as to how these things actually do look in person. And you also will find a buy it now link that'll take you to the Nike ID customization page for the Legend 6. No coupon codes. Nike doesn't really offer any discounts with the Nike ID service, so please keep that in mind as well. But otherwise, if you're interested in a pair, first link down below, go ahead and check it out. If you have any questions at all regarding my shoes or my experience with Nike ID, leave them down below in the comment section. I definitely will get an answer out to you. If you enjoyed today's video, found it helpful and informative, be sure to support it with a like. Subscribe if you haven't already for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. You can find all my social media information linked in the description as well. Other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video, and as always, thanks for watching.